children, 6 girls and 1 boy. We always called Wellington the boy. In 1902, I graduated from college. I studied biology. I didn't much like school. You could probably tell that. What I really liked was being a girl on the ranch. Oh, and my favorite activity? Well, it was riding on horseback alongside my father as he surveyed the ranch. That was the privilege of being the eldest. When I was a girl, I saw a horse trotting back to the corral, and it had a bloody gash on its shoulders. The ranch hands just stood there. I knew they were ready to put that horse out of its misery. I said, wait! I ran inside. I came back with a needle and thread. I sewed up that bloody 10-inch gash. I saved the horse's life. Another time, one of our ranch dogs got his paw caught in a trap. I amputated the paw, and then I made a little bootie for him to wear. Now, Shep, you be a good boy, you wear that bootie. Another time, when I was still a girl, Father got some equipment to put the hay up into the hayloft, and the pulley mechanism jammed. The ranch hands just stood there. Wait, Father, I think I can figure this out. Look, we just need to move the pulley over. Yes. Now it works. My father was so proud of me, and I almost burst. Another time, he wanted to rent one of his houses, and the prospective tenant wanted a boardwalk in front of the house, and Father refused. Well, he was frugal, Scottish, you know. So I got the lumber. I built the boardwalk. I guess you could see I'm pretty handy with tools and with a needle and thread. Our sister, Philena, died at just 9 years of age. I was just 11. Our mother grieved deeply, and from then on, it was pretty much up to me to raise my siblings. Later, they said I was bossy. Well, of course I was bossy. I had to be. We all graduate from college. As I mentioned, I graduated. I majored in biology, and I did my senior research paper on snails. I didn't much like college. In my diary, I wrote, go, go, go. It doesn't matter where, just go. But it took me almost a decade to figure out where. When I'm 24, I head east for the first time with a school chum. We visit Wellington, my brother, who's at Harvard and has fallen ill. I nurse Wellington back to health. Wellington gets well. And then we get ourselves invited to the inaugural ball of President Teddy Roosevelt. Oh, it's dancing and twirling, and oh, I love the ball gowns. You know, I am an accomplished seamstress. Oh, the president's wife is in pale blue brocaded satin with a little dip at the waist. Oh, it's exquisite. Then we go to New York City, and we stay at the Waldorf Astoria Hotel. Oh, I love promenading up and down Fifth Avenue, but I am appalled at the filth and the slums. I go home to Montana, but I'm not a ranch girl anymore. The poverty that I have witnessed in Washington, D.C., and New York City, and Boston haunts my dreams. I head west to San Francisco, which is also rampant with squalor I stumble upon a settlement house on Telegraph Hill and work there for a while. I start reading the already renowned social worker, Jane Addams. Wait, I'll become a social worker to help eradicate the misery I see around me. When I'm 28, I head back to New York and go to the School of Philanthropy on East 22nd Street. It's now Columbia School of Social Work. Morning classes, afternoon fieldwork. I'm assigned to the Jewish-Italian neighborhood just near the Bowery, the happiest place of all in New York City, despite the misery. One day, I have to take a little 3-year-old boy to the orphanage. I arrive at the tenement house. Oh, there he is, just 3 years old. Oh, his face is smiling, full of joy. His mother has 2 younger children, and the father's gone missing. As I take him, his mother doesn't seem to mind. I can't believe it. As we leave, she just waves, bye-bye. Oh. Before long, I realize that my calling is not to be a social worker, but to work for social change. I head to the state of Washington. I study, I read, I get involved with women's suffrage. I am an excellent organizer, so I get sent to Florida and Michigan and Ohio. Wait, why not get the vote for my women in my home state? To do that, I travel 9,000 miles all over Montana. Later, John F. Kennedy wrote that I traveled by horseback. Oh, that was just a Wild West myth. I travel by train, but places where the train is inaccessible, I go by car. Wellington teaches me how to drive his Model T Ford. Whoa, I love driving fast. Let's go! I am a grassroots organizer down to the core. I speak everywhere. In schools, I tell the school children, why don't you go home and ask your fathers why they don't want your mothers to vote? I have a speaking system that always works. I talk to men and begin in a friendly way. Good evening. You know, your representative is a just and upstanding man. He is against suffrage, and that's your fault. You haven't told him how you feel. And then I relay a little anecdote. There was a little boy sitting on his father's lap, and the father was trying to explain that the little boy didn't have to be afraid of anything. Pa, but what if a great big lion came our way? Oh, Sonny, the lions stay way out in the woods. Don't have to worry or be afraid. Pa, what if you saw a great big black bear? Wouldn't you be afraid? Oh, no, and I wouldn't let that bear harm you. Pa, is Ma the only thing you're afraid of? Well, then the men would laugh, and then I would say, oh, but you men of the West aren't afraid, and you're not afraid to give women the vote. Finally, I make my pitch. It is altogether fitting and proper for a mother to sit at the bedside of her child recovering from typhoid fever. It is also altogether fitting and proper for that woman, that same woman, to be able to vote for measures that regulate the milk supply from which typhoid can spread. It works. Women get the vote in Montana. But I'm exhausted. I need a break. I jump on a ship and go to New Zealand. Now, I am a talented dressmaker, so I work there as a dressmaker, and I learn and study about working women's conditions. And then I head back to Montana, where I have set the stage to run for the House of Representatives. While I'm campaigning, I criticize the federal government, which is allocating $300,000 to study fodder for hogs and only $30,000 to study the needs of children. If the hogs of our nation are 10 times more valuable than our children, then it's high time that women had a vote to make their feelings felt. Now, in this election, I'm running alongside 7 men, 8 of us, and each voter, men and women now, has 2 votes. So I say, vote for the man you want and vote for me. The first time I can vote in a federal election, I vote for myself. But have I won? No one can tell me. 3 days later, when I open my door, oh my, the yard is filled with reporters and flashbulbs flashing, and oh, I'm not going to come out again until all of you vacate my yard. That day, I might have been the most famous woman in the entire world. Yes, because that day, I am the first woman ever elected anywhere in the world to a national legislative body. People are surprised. Some of them are shocked. No one knows what to expect. Some newspapers predict that I will arrive in Washington, D.C. on a pony carrying a Winchester rifle. Others predict that I will be a dowdy, dried-up old maid. On my way to Washington, I stop off and speak at Carnegie Hall to an audience of 3,000. Later, a reviewer writes, "Charm would be the first word to use in describing Jeannette Rankin. Oh, she wore a simple frock of Georgette crepe with a wide band of fur at the bottom." Why do people spend so much time talking about what we women wear? He continued, "Her face was always smiling, and her voice was ready to break into laughter." Oh, fiddlesticks. I'm 36 years old. She might have been 19 or 23. Oh, I'm 36. But from what she said, she must have been much older. Well, I'm only 36. I will represent the women and men and children in my state, but I feel a special obligation to stand for and to represent all the women in this grand country. The mothers who don't want their sons to go to war, the women who can't afford food for the table, little girls growing up in states where women don't have the vote. My entrance into Washington, D.C. is momentous. President Woodrow Wilson asks for a vote, whether or not we should enter into the war. My suffragist friends say, "Jeannette, vote like a man, or you will set our cause back decades." Men say, "Jeannette, vote like a man, vote for war." The first roll call, I do nothing. The second roll call, I want to stand by my country, but I cannot vote for war. I vote no. I am one of only 50 senators and representatives who voted against war. Later, it was said that I collapsed. I did not collapse. I do put forth the 19th Amendment, granting women across this grand country the right to vote, and I vote for it. It passes in the House, dies in the Senate, eventually passes in both houses, but by the time it is ratified in 1920, I'm no longer in Congress. But I am the only woman who voted to give women the vote. That's what I'm proudest of. I also work for the working woman. A young woman comes to me, Miss Rankin, we need your help. We're at the Bureau of Printing and Engraving. There are 3,000 of us girls, and we're working 10, 12-hour shifts with no overtime, no breaks. We're printing Liberty bonds and currency, and we have to raise and lower our arms several hundred times every day. 2 have already been institutionalized because of tension, and others have fainted, and some of us have been threatened with sexual assault. Oh, well, this is not right. I go to the director of the Bureau, who says, Miss Rankin, everything is running according to schedule. I doubt that. I invite some of the girls to come to my apartment Sunday morning for breakfast. They sign affidavits describing the abuses they are experiencing. I take those signed affidavits to Treasury Secretary McAdoo, who says, well, good morning, Miss Rankin. Oh, what a pleasure to see you. But I don't have a lot of time for you today. I'm just getting ready to leave on a boating party. A boating party? Sir, I demand that you put the Bureau of Printing and Engraving on an 8-hour work schedule by the 5th of July. Oh my, oh my. The 5th of July is just the very day we're getting back from our vacation. He leaves. His assistant walks in. Hello, Miss Rankin. You're new here, aren't you? You don't know how things work in Washington, D.C., do you? Well, it takes us a long time to make any changes or to schedule things different or... Sir, I have signed affidavits. I demand that the Bureau be put on an 8-hour work schedule by the 5th of July, or I'll hand them over for a congressional investigation. I leave. When I get back to my office, the phone rings. Hello, Rankin speaking. There's going to be a meeting today at 1 o'clock? Good. The girls will be dismissed in order to testify? Good. I'll be right back. Good. I go back to the Bureau, but I'm nervous and fearful that the girls will not turn up for fear of being dismissed, but no. When I get there, the corridor is lined with 200 girls. They testify for several hours, and then we are all released. That night at 8 p.m., the newspaper says, Bureau of Printing and Engraving institutes 8-hour work day. That's probably the swiftest change that's ever happened in Washington. Oh, I could have accomplished so much more. But when a country is at war, very little else gets done. I'm not reelected. Armistice comes at 11 o'clock on the 11th day of the 11th month in 1918. And the following spring, I traveled to Switzerland to attend the second Women's International Conference on Peace and Freedom. I tell our hosts, Guten Tag, good morning. We are so happy and grateful to be here in Urech, and we see here in this clear atmosphere that war truly is the supreme folly. We are the first organization to denounce the Treaty of Versailles, saying that it will inevitably lead to further conflict, which it does, the Second World War. Back in the United States, people are sometimes surprised that I spend as much time as I do in the state of Georgia. Why not? The climate is milder there than it is in Washington, and it's only 600 miles to Washington, D.C., as opposed to 2,200 miles. Oh, I like living in Georgia. I buy a few acres, and I have a house, and then, when I'm traveling, the house burns down. I try building a rammed earth house. That doesn't go very well. Eventually, I decide to live in the 3-room sharecropper's cottage, which is actually part of the bigger establishment, and my caretaker, Wonder Robinson, lives in the main house. I like it that way. I don't have running water. Why do I need running water when I can just walk outside and dip my pail into the well? And on days when I'm not expecting visitors, I can spend the whole day in my bathrobe drinking buttermilk. And when the oriental carpet on my floor gets ragged, well, I just sit on the floor with a little pot of red and black paint and retrace the design. In 1948, I established the Jeannette Rankin Peace Society, which I use as my headquarters. My pacifism does increase as I grow older. The American Legion decides to cast me and to say that I am a communist. Now, this controversy arises over a misunderstanding. A small women's college wants to establish a chair of peace for me. That seems to be what puts the American Legion off. That's why they call me a communist, because I am opposed to war. I sue the Macon Evening News because they also call me a communist. A year later, the situation is resolved and there's no trial. The editor of the newspaper gives me $1,000 and says, "You're a nice lady." I'm still in demand, and in 1939, I go back to Washington, D.C. I testify to the House Foreign Affairs Committee. I insist the first step toward fascism is to ignore or decrease congressional powers. I can see that is what's happening in Washington, so I return to Montana and decide to run again for the House of Representatives. To campaign, I plan to visit 52 high schools. I write the principals and tell the principals when I will be arriving. I don't put a return address. I talk to the students. I tell the students, talk to your parents. Tell them that war is no way to resolve a dispute. You can no more win a war than you can win an earthquake. I register to be on the ballot 6 days before my 60th birthday. I'm not an isolationist, but I don't want our boys to die on foreign soil. My pledge, prepare to the limit for defense. Keep our men out of Europe. It works. I am re-elected again, House of Representatives, State of Montana. Fiorello LaGuardia, now mayor of New York City, and former congressional colleague, Wires. Congratulations, Jeannette, I always knew you would win. Love, Fiorello. Oh, it's true. We were, once upon a time, an item. And once he slid his arm around my waist and said to my sister, Edna, you don't know how hard I tried to get this gal to marry me. I never marry. I think most men would find me too strong and stubborn. I know there is some curiosity about my relationships, romantic, also with women. Candidly, I am not cut out for a long-term relationship with either sex. I think more important than the state of my sexual preferences is the state of the Union. Pearl Harbor, December 7th, 1941. Another momentous vote, but I have no hesitation this time. As a woman, I cannot go to war, and I refuse to send anyone else. I vote no. I am the sole dissenting vote. Wellington wires me from Montana. Jeannette, Montana is against you 110%. I'm not reelected. I spend the next years looking after my mother on the ranch. She spends her days canning applesauce. She cans 6 quarts a day. She stockpiles 200 quarts of applesauce. She cans apple butter and fruit. And if you've ever had to look after an aging relative, well, you know what that's like. Eventually, I take her to my sister, Edna. I drive back to Georgia. I do love Georgia. Wait. Oh, I have a wonderful idea. I will build a home for elderly, well, older women who don't want to spend the rest of their lives living alone or with their children. I call it the Roundhouse. It's built of concrete blocks, 8 pie-shaped bedrooms around a large communal area. Well, only 1 refrigerator, but oh, that's just a detail. It sits on a hill overlooking Shady Grove, my little cottage. And oh, we'll have a vegetable garden and a lake where women can go boating and swimming. And when it's finished, several of my friends stop by and take a look. Oh, even strangers come. But no one moves in. That's unfortunate. Whenever and wherever I am asked, I do speak. I give more than 5,000 speeches in the course of my career. I am considered feminine and forceful, controversial, and ahead of my time. In Nashville, I tell young women, look, it's no good just to sit inside and have your meetings. We suffragists learned that doesn't accomplish anything. If you want to start a revolution, you have to go out onto the street. You have to be ornery and stubborn. And when men start making fun of you, well, then you know you're getting somewhere. Well, I'm talking now about the 1960s. Vietnam has reared its ugly head. I don't understand how mothers can let their sons go off to war. It reminds me of the ranch. On the ranch, a cow has a little calf, and then a man comes and takes the calf away. And the mama cow bawls for a while, and then goes and has another calf. I think it is unconscionable that already 10,000 men have died in Vietnam. And I am convinced that if mothers put their mind to it, they could stop the war, even if it meant going to jail. I'm depressed. I'm disillusioned. I wonder if my life has been in vain. The phone rings. Hello, Rankin speaking. you want to organize a women's peace march to protest Vietnam, and if I lead it, you'll call it the Jeannette Rankin Brigade? Well, I may be almost 90, but you can count me in. Let's march. We march from Union Station to the Capitol. Judy Collins sings, "This land is your land." We march. The leading feminists of the day: Coretta Scott King, Julie Belafonte, Rosa Parks, Ruby Dee, Jessica Mitford, Jane Spock, Susan Sontag, and me. And behind us, 5,000 women. We march. And when we get to the Capitol, we are stopped by the Capitol Police, who say we are infringing on a law that does not allow demonstrations at the Capitol. Oh, well, this is wrong. I deplore this. Eventually, the case, Jeannette Rankin Brigade versus Chief of Capitol Police, goes to the Supreme Court and is overturned in 1972. A reporter asks, "Miss Rankin, do you think there'll ever be a woman president?" Oh my, of course there'll be a woman president. It's inevitable, and it's even desirable. Men will be delighted. A man loves to be governed by a woman. Just look at matrimony. Back in Georgia, a young, restless law student pitches his tent in my front yard at Shady Grove. 2 days later, I invite him in. John Kirkley cooks and cleans, organizes my speaking engagements, drives me everywhere. Well, I decide to repay his law school debt of $3,000. My friends are alarmed. Oh, don't worry. Do you think that I can be taken in by a 29-year-old boy? Well, I know he's using me, but I'm using him as well. And at my age, I can do what I want with my money. I spend my next years working for government reform, getting rid of the Electoral College, which is a sham. The other thing we need is more participatory democracy. We need to establish ranked voting. All serious candidates are ranked or are put on a ballot, and then the voters rank them in, or no, not Rankin voting. Oh, but that would be nice. And if a majority doesn't win, well, then the second person gets elected. That's what we actually need to do. Now, in 1972, I go to New York City. I have been chosen as the world's outstanding living feminist. I am the first woman inducted into the Susan B. Anthony Hall of Fame. I speak to a group of 1,500 women, and I say, "Oh, women, we need you to spend your powers to get into office. We need more women to help solve the social disgraces that exist in this country and to get people to vote for the government that we want and need." Later, someone says, or asks me, "Jeannette, would you do it all over again?" I say, "Oh, yes, I'd do it all over again, and next time I'd be nastier." I accomplish a lot, but what I'm not able to accomplish is ending my life when I'm ready to go. My broken hip never heals. I have that nerve which has caused me excruciating pain for decades. I have it severed. My voice fails. Then a stroke completely takes my voice, and you know how important speaking always has been to me. I weigh 80 pounds. I ask my doctor in Carmel, California, where I'm living, to please withdraw my medications. He refuses. I die in my sleep just 3 weeks before my 93rd birthday. And now, let's have some positive audience participation. I have a checklist, and if I've accomplished it, I'd like you to join me in saying check. Get suffrage for women in Montana in 1914? Check. Vote against entrance into the First World War? Check. Vote against entrance into the Second World War? Check. Protest the war in Vietnam? Check. Eliminate the Electoral College? No. That hasn't happened, and who knows when it's going to happen. But this is an election year. This is the year that you all need to get out the vote. And you, right now, have an opportunity to vote right here and now. I think all of you have received a little ballot, either from my husband Mark or in the program. Yes. And I would like you to think right now of one person or one issue that you feel passionately about. And just imagine that you are the winning vote on whatever that issue or person is. Write that on this little ballot, and after the play, you can stick it in my ballot box, and we'll see what you vote for. I'll be doing the show on Monday, March 18th at New Village Arts, and when I'm doing it there, I'll tell them what you have voted. In previous performances, audience members have voted to end child poverty, to strengthen gun safety laws, to get rid of the Electoral College. This is an important year. This is a year when we must all vote. We also would like to let you know that if you are interested, you can make a donation to the League of Women Voters, North County, San Diego. We'll put that out in the lobby because they are doing an amazing job in helping us keep democracy afloat. But you also individually have to do things. You have to stand up. You have to speak out. You have to perhaps go outside your comfort zone in order to do that. But if you do, then you can say with me, may I stand, I fight better standing. Thank you.
I would like the honor of casting the first vote and making the first donation. And I invite all of you to follow me.
Vote goes in there.
Vote goes in there.
And donation goes in there. Oh, thank you, Madison.
Let's give Beth, another round of applause. Wonderful. Really? Well, I'd like to say also that I don't know if your ancestor and my father ever met, but my father was a conscientious objector in World War II.
Oh, for heaven's sake.
So I'm sure he must have been following her career very closely, and can't say for sure he attended one of her speeches, but they were on the same agenda.
Isn't that fascinating?
They were on the same agenda.
It's great to know, isn't it?
Now, is Jeannette taking questions?
Yes, if you have any questions.
Okay, well, wait, I have a question first, since I have the privilege of the
So write those votes out, too. Okay, what is your question, sir?
Ms. Rankin, you have accomplished a great deal in your life. One of the things was allowing protests on the Capitol grounds. Do you now regret that decision?
I do not regret that decision. What has happened has been deplorable, despicable, but I think we can rise from that and then have peaceful demonstrations as we reclaim our capital.
Yes, all right. So let's come and vote. Come and vote and come and give.
And yeah, please.
And after you vote and give, then you can ask a question.
Yeah, just stick it in there. There was supposed to be a top on this. The top didn't. Thank you. Thank you so much. Wait, I can move this down here. You don't
No,
have to
leave it there,
come
leave
all
there.
the way up.
They need to come up to...
Thank you. Thank you so much for coming and voting. Thank you. Great, thank you.
Just
I am so glad you came. I'm available if you want some coaching.
Spectacular. Thank you.
Think about it. Thank you so much. Wow, this is really exciting. I'm going to come down one more step. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
I love that generation. I felt passionate about it.
Yes.
Because my friends came back.
Oh, you're so welcome. So welcome. Hey, lovely. Good seeing you. Wonderful. Thank you for coming. Whoa, yes. That's good, Lisa. Thank you. Thank you, Jen. You're welcome. Thank you.
Are you in the museum in New York?
Oh, yes. Are you going on the mission? No. Oh, I have to tell Madison that there's a wonderful statue of me it was in the hall, and I think they've moved it to the visitor center of Jeannette. That is, not of me.
Fabulous. Fabulous.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Grandmother marched on Fifth Avenue.
No kidding. In 1913.
Probably.
I think that was the one in 1913.
That would have been.
Does that sound right? Jeannette marched in Montana. She and her sisters dressed as Indians. But, hey, in 1913, that was considered all right. They were being respectful as they knew how. Anyway, thank you. Good. More votes, more donations.
And she went to New Zealand. I'm a New Zealander.
Oh, for heaven's sake.
The first country they went.
Did I mention it was 1893? It was in my script, but I don't get, hey, thank you for coming all the way to see this. Hi, sir.
Terrific, Beth.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And if you'd like to donate, okay, great.